Hello, dear viewers. I'm a global nationalist. I support nationalism in my country, India, and in all countries around the globe. Today, I'm going to be talking about nationalism outside South Asia, and the country I'll talk about today is the UK. I want to look at the uh, race for the leadership of the Conservative Party between Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss and compare the two of them. So, yeah, let's start with the basics of the race and how it's going to be formed. Basically, the because Boris Johnson has resigned as the leader of the Conservative Party, although he is still the prime minister, but he has said that he will not be passing any major laws or giving any significant instructions to his secretaries. Um, But right now, the Conservative Party does not have a leader, and they will elect a leader. This is not a general election. This is because the general elections happened in 2019, and the party in power stays in power until the end of its term, which is for 5 years. So, yeah, they will continue to be in office until 2024, the party, but the prime minister can change. The party can change its leader. So I think in the first week of September, the election results for the leader of the Conservative Party will be announced, and later that month, the that leader will be sworn in as the prime minister. So that's the process, and now I'm going to talk about the two candidates that are the final candidates. It started with eight, but now after 5 rounds of voting by the Conservative MPs, only two remain. These are Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss. These two candidates are pretty different from each other, but also somewhat similar, and I want to examine them. Now, I want to give a disclaimer that I am a foreigner. I am not a UK citizen, so I am not involved in any party. And as an Indian person, I do not support Rishi Sunak just because he's an Indian. I'm not sure, or neither do I support Liz Truss. I'm just giving my opinion. So yeah, let's begin. So Liz Truss, she served as the Secretary of State for Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Affairs since 2021 and as Minister for Women and Equality since 2019. She's been associated with economically neoliberal and socially conservative views. Um, the Environment, Food and Rural Affairs. She was also a supporter of the UK to remain in the Union campaign. She was a Remainer, but she supported Brexit after the result. So this shows that she respects the will of the people and was not going to go against them, even though she disagreed with them. So one could consider this as just bending to political whims, but also I think it shows that she's somewhat humble, which is good. Hopefully, it's a genuine change and she's not just doing it for political gain, because that means if it changes again, she'll change that she doesn't have any personal values or integrity. She's not like Hillary Clinton, though, as far as I know. I mean, Hillary was basically had no convictions. She seems to have some values. And following the 2017 general election, she was appointed Chief Secretary to the Treasury. So, and yeah, and she supported Boris Johnson's bid to become Conservative leader. And so she was born in Oxford, England. Her parents were liberal Democrats, and yes, like she was a Lib Dem basically when she was young, and yeah, so that is significant for conservatives in the UK to know that she hasn't always been on their side. But it seems that, like a lot of people, she was young, liberal in her youth, and has become more conservative as she's aged. Her then She was first elected to the House of Commons on the 6th of May 2010. So Boris Johnson, in 2021, promoted Truss from International Trade Secretary to Foreign Secretary. COVID and prevent that from happening. And she called on Russia to intervene in the Belarus European Union border crisis. This is unnecessary for the UK to get involved in this, especially since it's out of the EU. I think this was a bad decision by her as foreign secretary. But I agree with this, working on the with Israeli counterpart to aim announce a new decade-long deal, which is aimed at stopping Iran from developing nuclear weapons. Now, first, although as a value, I think every country has the right to develop its military weapons to its desire, but I also understand practically that Iran getting nuclear weapons would uh, spark a nuclear arms race in the Middle East, and so it's better if they aren't allowed to do so. Then then she was announced her leadership election on the 10th of July. She pledged to cut taxes on day one if elected and said she would fight the election as a conservative and govern as a conservative, adding she would also take immediate action to help people deal with the cost of living. She said she would cancel a planned rise in corporation tax and reverse the recent increase in national insurance rates, funded by delaying that date by which the national debt is planned to fall as part of a long-term plan to bring down the size of the state and the tax burden. Okay, this is an interesting plan. I'll talk about it later though. And she has said her influences were Margaret Thatcher, Ronald Reagan, Conservative MPs in her early days in Parliament, which is a free market collection of parliamentarians arguing for a more entrepreneurial economy and fewer employment laws. And as for her foreign policy, she called Saudi Arabia an ally, but said she was not condoning the country's policies. So this is what about the election. She pledged to cut taxes on day one if elected, and says that she would fight the election as a conservative, govern as a conservative. This is she says this because uh, many of the people in the Conservative Party believe that their leaders are not actually conservative and are more leftist. And so she's saying that she's an actual honest conservative. She's trying to differentiate herself from the other candidates, and about taking immediate action to help people deal with the cost of living. She's talking about how taxes have been raised and by Rishi Sunak as the Chancellor of the Exchequer, and says that she will cut taxes, and these tax cuts will be funded by delaying the date by which the national debt is planned to fall, and says this is a long-term plan to bring down the size of the state and the tax burden. And economic and foreign policy, she has economic libertarian views and supports free trade. She founded the Free Enterprise Group of conservative MPs, a free market collection of parliamentarians, arguing for a more entrepreneurial economy and fewer employment laws. In 2022, she called Saudi Arabia an ally, but said she was not condoning the country's policies. And social and cultural issues, she said that she would reject the zero-sum game of identity politics, and that she rejects the liberalism of cancel culture and the soft bigotry of low expectations that hold so many people back. Soft bigotry of low expectations is a term that refers to how leftists often have lower standards for people from minority groups than they do from people of the majority group. This is done because they think that people from minority groups cannot compete equally with the majority group, and so that they need more help. They claim that this is being done that the minorities are oppressed, but this is actually just that's not true. Especially in the UK, um, laws are equal for everyone. There is no state discrimination. People can rise up in the ranks, and so setting lower standards for some is bigotry. It's even though it's may be done out of compassion, it's still a form of bigotry. And for her candidacy, she said that she will scrap all remaining European Union laws that apply in Britain by 2023. And this is referring to the thousands of EU laws that still apply to Britain after the Brexit. And now on to Rishi Sunak. He served as Chancellor of the Exchequer from 2020 to 2022, and having previously been the Chief Secretary to the Treasury from 2019 to 2020. He was educated at Winchester College. He subsequently read philosophy, politics, and economics at Lincoln College, Oxford, and later gained an MBA from Stanford University in California. He represents Richmond and North Yorkshire at the 2015 general election. He served in Theresa May's second government as Parliamentary Secretary of State for Local Government. He voted three times in favor of May's Brexit withdrawal agreement after May resigned. Sunak was a supporter of Boris Johnson's campaign to become Conservative leader. Amid the Partygate scandal, he became the first Chancellor of the Exchequer in British history to have been sanctioned for breaking the law while in office after being issued a fixed penalty notice for breaching COVID-19 regulations during lockdowns. Yeah, for that to be the first thing in Wikipedia's to be shown is shows how significant that is. He was elected as the Conservative candidate for Richmond in October 2014. Uh, this seat was one of the safest Conservative seats in the United Kingdom, and he was also in the same year the head of the Black and Minority Ethnic Research Unit of center-right think tank Policy Exchange. He was elected as MP for the constituency at the 2015 general election with a majority of 36.2%. And he was during the 2015 to 2017 Parliament. He was a member of the Environment, Food and Rural Affairs Select Committee. Sunak supported Brexit at the 2016 June EU membership referendum, and so naturally he continued to support it, and uh, he voted against a second referendum on any withdrawal agreement. He was re-elected at the 2017 general election with an increased majority of 40.5%, and he was again elected in the 2019 general election with an increased majority of 47.2%. Yeah, so his election majority is now 11% higher than it was when he first was elected, which is very impressive in my opinion. Uh, his first budget took place on 11th March 2020 when the COVID pandemic had begun. This included an announcement of £30 billion of additional spending, of which £12 billion was allocated for mitigation of the economic effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. He was receiving criticism because some workers were unable to qualify for the Treasury's income support measures. The Institute for Employment Studies estimated that 100,000 people could not be eligible for any type of government help as they started a new job too late to be included in the job retention scheme. I really can't talk much about this, whether this was a good scheme or not, but I can understand why many people were upset about it. And Sunak was part of the committee of cabinet ministers that made decisions on the pandemic. He was also fined alongside Johnson for attending a party when it was actually illegal to gather in large numbers of people because of the lockdown restrictions. He, although he was fined, he did not deliver a statement or resign, but he did support Boris Johnson's resignation. So yeah, Boris Johnson somewhat feels betrayed by Rishi Sunak. So what does the race state? What is the state of the race now? Sunak emerged as the favorite in balloting of Conservative MPs. He had he got 137 MPs backing him, and Truss has over 113. So it's a big lead. But he is facing an uphill fight for the hearts and minds of the 175,000 Conservative Party members who have the final say. He has Truss has a 24-point lead over Sunak among the Tory grassroots. The YouGov poll says. Uh, Now, for the problem for Sunak is that rank and file love Johnson, according to this article by Telegraph India, which is actually not true. The Conservative rank and file despise Johnson from what I've seen on social media. They used to like him when he came in, but no longer. And but I agree that they do view him as a betrayer. He's knifed the prime minister in the front, as British newspapers put it, when Boris Johnson was at his weakest moment, which I think was hypocritical for him to do because he was also in the party. There is no need for him to act superior, morally superior. Instead, he should have resigned himself, and then Boris Johnson could have or might not have resigned, but that should not have been Sunak's issue. He is married to Akshata Murthy, the daughter of N.R. Narayana Murthy of Infosys, who was entirely legally using tax havens to save on paying tax. However, this was a bad look for him because Sunak, as Chancellor, was hiking taxes to pay for the country's huge COVID-19 spending, and it became known that Akshata was richer than the Queen. I'm not sure how true that is. He was also pictured leaving office in a pound 3,500 suit, and he wore Prada suede loafers on a visit last week to a building site. So, yeah, he is very wealthy, and wearing Prada loafers to a building site, I'm not sure why, but it can seem a little arrogant, as if you're showing off your wealth. And in the UK, that's not accepted, not admired. Sunak is popular in Westminster. This is according to columnist and former Daily Telegraph editor Charles Moore. He is a thoroughly respectable, pleasant, intelligent, well-educated person, and he also calls him the establishment candidate. Rishi Sunak is also the favorite of the financial markets, with traders saying a victory by the populist Truss would trigger gas politics in the UK. How the uh, growing and also going to have so that's the state of both candidates. Rishi Sunak is the establishment candidate, but Liz Truss is the candidate who is supported by the rank and file. So it's more than a clash of race. It's a clash of class and also ideology, you could say, between the two wings of the Tories. And I'm not sure who would be better. I think Rishi Sunak seems to be more able to handle the pressures of government. Being chancellor is very difficult and is a more high-ranking position than foreign secretary, which is still a foreign high-ranked position. And um, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this election pans out and which of them is a nationalist. I think uh, I'm not sure. I really don't think either of them were nationalists. I think that most both of them are in it for themselves, and I really don't think uh, in the Conservative Party there is a candidate or an MP who I could say really cares about the people. Most of them are just concerned about their own power and money. So yeah, I that's all I can say for now. I'll be following this and reporting on it as it goes on. And for now, I just want to say that I wish good luck to the UK. If you want to see other videos about nationalism outside South Asia, click on this playlist. If you want to see my previous video, click here. If you want to see the sources I use for this video, click the links in the description below. Thank you for watching. One day Mataram.